Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Quick little surprise show here in the early afternoon. Wanted to dive into some of these rumors. I don't know if you guys heard about this or not, but there's some reports coming out of Atlanta that Matt LaFleur could be out in Green Bay, and he heard LaFleur could be interested in coming back to Atlanta. You know, Matt LaFleur's got ties to the Atlanta Falcons, obviously, as the former offensive coordinator, I believe. That's right. Yeah. He was the OC there, if I remember correctly. The first year that McVay went to the LA Rams, Matt LaFleur became Kyle Shanahan's OC. Or was he the quarterback coach? He was the quarterback coach, right? Because Dan Quinn was the head coach. So he worked with Matt Ryan in Atlanta, obviously. And then when Shanahan ended up leaving Atlanta, everything kind of unfolded after that, right? He went to the LA Rams with McVay. So there's a little bit of ties there to Atlanta. We're going to talk about that rumor, and I'll give my take on it. I want to know what everybody thinks in the chat as well. Because, listen, it's gotten loud around Matt LaFleur here lately. I've made my opinion very, very upfront. I think it's absolutely crazy to let Matt LaFleur leave the Packers. And I did a poll question on this on X the other day, asking fans, hey, do you want Matt LaFleur fired or not? Because it got so loud, and it was like right at 70% of the votes. It was definitely well above 65% of the votes voted no, right? Like they wanted to keep Matt LaFleur. So I was like, okay, it's just a loud minority. But now you're starting to hear this stuff, and it's really, really, really interesting on how this is kind of all coming into focus. Now, listen, I don't know these guys. They're at 680 The Fan, okay? We're going to play their audio clip, so you guys can go check that out on their Twitter account at 680 The Fan. We'll play the audio and get kind of the entire take there. We'll also hear what Richard Sherman, a former NFL player, had to say about Matt LaFleur and this entire situation as well. So before we get into all that, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for us, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your afternoon or early morning, I guess you could say, depending on where you're at in the country. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you, talking Packers on the daily. So if you're looking for that type of content, very, very unprofessional, make sure you hit subscribe and click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. So let's dive into it. Again, this is the Twitter handle. I want to pop that up there so you guys can find it, okay? And we're going to play the audio here. I guess the guy's name is Chernoff, if I'm saying that right. Drops a bombshell. Rumor is Matt LaFleur could be out in Green Bay, and he heard LaFleur could be interested in coming back. Again, I don't know this guy. I know their account, 680 The Fans, got 79,000 followers. Looks like they cover the Braves, Georgia Tech, Georgia football, and obviously the Atlanta Falcons as well. So they're based out of the Atlanta metro area, sounds like. So let's just play the audio clip. We'll pause it in between and get everybody's take on it. I'm going to throw a screen grab up here in case there is some kind of video of this on YouTube. We don't want to steal anybody's video. Just want to play the audio. And again, this is courtesy of 680 The Fan over on X is where we've seen this. Here we go.
I got an interesting phone call earlier in the week from somebody I trust in the media.
Somebody we trust.
Media who told me to put something on my radar. I said, okay, put it in the back of my mind. Now, the problem is I'll forget. So I had to bring it up here or else it would escape. I was told by somebody to keep an eye on Matt LaFleur. And I said, tell me more. Because we're here in the midst of the Raheem Morris discussion about short-term, long-term. We know the Raheem Morris era will end at some point with him being fired, whether it's at the end of this year, I don't know, Monday, next year, 5 games into 2026, I don't know. But I was told that the Packers, who are one of the more stable franchises in all of the NFL.
What did he just say? Did he just say the Packers are one of the more stable franchises in all the NFL? You wouldn't know it here lately from a portion of the fan base.
Might make a switch at quarterback or at head coach, if they don't make the playoffs, which I was shocked to hear. Matt LaFleur's record with the Green Bay Packers is 72, 36-1 in 7 seasons. That's one of the great starts to a career anybody's ever had.
And he's handled the whole transition to Jordan Love thing beautifully.
There's never drama.
Mm-hmm.
They don't attract free agents. That's why the Micah thing was so big for them, because they just don't do stuff like that.
I think what he's pointing out there too, I didn't know how to take what he said there, but I think what he's saying is they typically don't have like big name free agents in Green Bay. I kind of pushed back a little bit. Obviously, Goody went out and got Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, right? 2 huge signings, 2 great football players. So push back a little bit there. But I think what he's also saying is it doesn't attract a lot of free agents, right? It's not like guys are lining up to come to Green Bay, obviously the weather, things like that. So maybe that's what he meant.
But I was told that he still has a connection with the Falcons, a good relationship, and would be interested in coming back here. And I will tell you 100%, that is the perfect choice for this franchise that could save them. All
right, so before he gets into why he thinks that Matt LaFleur could save the Falcons franchise, what's really interesting there is how, obviously there's tampering and stuff that can go on behind the scenes that you can get in trouble for, but you have a relationship, a friendship with people in the building, right? And if somebody reached out to Matt and said, hey, if it didn't work out in Green Bay, would be interested in coming here, of course he's going to say, yeah. I mean, essentially it's, if you're going to be fired, would you like another head coaching job? I think so, right? Kind of goes without saying. But it is kind of interesting because, again, we're all just fans, right? Myself included. And we're in here talking Packers, and it gets loud around the coaches. I don't think particularly on this program. I think it's few and far between people come on this in the chat on our show and call for Matt LaFleur's job. You see a lot of that on social media. But they've got to hear it, right? So, I mean, who knows? Maybe Matt has heard the grumblings behind the scenes, right? And that loud portion of the fan base and like, you know what? We just send out a couple birdies out there. And I know people are going to say that's tampering. You're not allowed to do that. Tampering happens from players, with agents, teams, with coaches, all the way down the line, right? That happens every year. It's kind of the unwritten rule is you got to do it in a certain way to send out the homing pigeon to get it out there. I'm not saying Matt did that, but I guess that's what this guy is insinuating the person told him, right? So here we go.
I'm talking about if Green Bay was ever, and this to me would be short-sighted, if they're ever in the position where we just can't move forward with Matt LaFleur, if Raheem's employed and Matt LaFleur is not, Raheem's unemployed the next day. You go get Matt LaFleur as your head coach, play sheet in his hand, bring stability in a way, you ready for this? That Dan Reeves brought it in the 90s when the Falcons were following Jerry Glanville and June Jones, and they needed stability. Dan was...
So obviously what this guy is saying here that covers the Falcons is, listen, if Matt LaFleur becomes available, right, we would fire Raheem Morris tomorrow and go get Matt LaFleur. I can't imagine they would keep Raheem on staff, right? So his personal opinion, Matt LaFleur is kind of top of the list of coaches that could be available if he were to be fired, like some are calling for, right? Again, not us, well, some are calling for.
It's further along in his career, but remember what Dan brought? Experience, winning. He could work with young quarterbacks. Matt LaFleur can bring all that stuff, because you and I both know this, Charles. After you go back-to-back first-time head coaches, what do you have to do?
Oh, yeah, you got to go with experienced guy.
I think Arthur's going to say we need a commodity. Now, my fear is that would be Mike McCarthy, and that would scare the hell out of me because Mike McCarthy doesn't do much for me. But if Matt LaFleur, if what I was told is true, that the Packers would even consider moving on from LaFleur if they miss the playoffs, if I'm the Falcons, snap him up. No brainer.
All right. So obviously this particular media source there, again, 680 in Atlanta, say they would take Matt LaFleur in a heartbeat, right? And I think there's a lot of teams that agree with that. I really do. I wonder what everybody thinks in the comments. I'm going to try to catch them on the fly here and see if I can get these. Okay, we're good. We're good so far. All right. I just want to try to keep you guys involved here in that regard. Now let's shift gears over to the Richard Sherman podcast. People are going to immediately steer away from the show because there's a lot of Packer fans that do not like Richard Sherman. Listen, a lot of his takes kind of bothered me a little bit too. Like, man, I don't know. It just seems like he picks his spots to hate. But let's see what he has to say about Matt LaFleur. Again, this is Richard Sherman from the Richard Sherman podcast. And his tweet says, no love for Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, regardless of winning. Packers fans want him gone today. Let's see what Richard Sherman had to say.
There are people, fans of the Green Bay Packers, that are calling for Matt LaFleur's job. I just got to think that's insane. Is he above criticism? Nobody. He can be criticized. Was the play calling spectacular throughout this game? No. They ran the ball probably more than they should have. The Eagles' defensive line had answers. They were stout. N'Kobe Dean was running through. They probably should have went a different direction. But to say you want the head coach fired, that same head coach that's taken you to numerous NFC championship games, immense success, the winning record speaks for itself. I keep hearing, 10 wins every single year for the Green Bay Packers. And you thinking, hey, if we got rid of Matt LaFleur, things would improve. You've lost your mind. Is he perfect? No. No coordinator, no coach is. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. Is he perfect? No. Mike McDonald is having a phenomenal season with the Seattle Seahawks. Is he perfect? No. Andy Reid has been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. Is he perfect? No. Nobody is. To say, hey, Matt LaFleur is somehow letting this quarterback down, letting Jordan Love down. That's an asinine thought process.
All right, so there you go. Richard Sherman seems to be on the Matt LaFleur train as well, right? And again, take that for what it's worth. Again, when I kind of step back and just give my opinion as a Packer fan, when I step back and look at this whole Matt situation, right? I'm going, okay, if you were to fire Matt LaFleur, who's the replacement? And how much of an improvement are you looking at? Because the thought that everything is just going to improve and there's not going to be any setback, I just can't get on board with that. I can't. I don't, and it's too old for this, says in the chat. I don't want Matt going anywhere. Me neither. I don't. I want to be very clear about my opinion here. But again, I want to walk this out because the rumors started to kick up. You got a guy who has a pretty successful sports program there in Atlanta, right? Like I said, pretty good following. And he's saying someone close to the helm is saying Matt would be interested in the job if Green Bay let him go. And this could be jockeying by Matt's spot too. Because listen, the media stirred this up in the offseason too. They said, why didn't they extend Matt LaFleur? Well, he's got guys, Matt LaFleur is under contract next year. I thought it was weird that we were trying to stir that up with 2 years left on the deal. And I know the response from the majority of the media members there were, well, yeah, but you don't want to go into a lame duck year. And they were responding to Ed Policy's comments of, there's still years on his contract, but we don't want to have a lame duck coach. Meaning in the last year, if you go into the final year of a contract of a coach, I think what comes into play there is those other coaches in the building, they start putting some fillers out like, okay, he didn't get extended, therefore I'm not getting extended, because we know the head coach is gone, the whole thing gets scrapped to the bones, right? So if that's the case, everybody's kind of shaky, people aren't coaching comfortably. People, it's not the ideal situation. But the other guy, I thought that we hadn't extended a coach like that with 2 years left on their deal. Evidently I was wrong there. So that's an interesting side of this as well. We got a super chat from Brambo. Thank you so much. He says, we fire Matt LaFleur, we get Rich Bisaccia as interim. That's crazy talk, especially in a year where we're supposed to have a shot at winning the Super Bowl, right? That is kind of funny watching people on X come to the realization that if we fired Matt, the assistant coach would just probably get promoted, which would be Rich Bisaccia to head coach. And then all of a sudden, like, oh no, we don't want that, right? It's just really, really, really interesting for sure. Let's see here. The Adam Block offensive line coach seat on fire. Offensive coordinator coach seat hot. Matt LaFleur coach seat warm. There you go. All right. So he's saying the hot seat is not necessarily hot for Matt. It's warm, but the OC and the offensive line coach, it definitely should be, right? We got Arturo Santos. Good to see you in here, buddy. Says, we just need some change. So I think he's saying, correct me if I'm wrong there, Arturos. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. You're saying you want Matt LaFleur gone, I'm assuming, right? 2-0 for this says Matt would go from Tupac LaFleur to Marshall Mathers in the way he would hold a grudge and eviscerate anyone who steps to him. And that's the thing too, is like people are talking like, Matt is a bad coach, and it's, well, I don't care what he's done in the past. Well, let's not focus on the past. Let's just talk about this year, right? You got the youngest roster in the league, and people get mad when I say that, but it's a fact, right? As it sits right now, we are 5-3-1. And we have the 12th best record in the entire NFL as we sit here today. Okay. If you go to the conference and just focus in on the NFC, as it sits right now, the Packers would make the playoffs as the 7th seed. All right. And again, like we had pointed out, if you beat the Giants this week, Minnesota beats Chicago, Philly beats Detroit, which I think we would all agree that's all possible, right? That's like not highly unlikely. If that's the case, Green Bay's back in first place in the North. So That's what's going on currently with the record and his current success. And the reason I'm just nowhere near we need to fire Matt LaFleur is I'm looking up going, okay, since week 2, you've been without your number 1 receiver in Jaden Reed. You just got Christian Watson back, getting him acclimated. And by the way, I thought he started off strong. Those first 2 games, he played really, really well. I felt like, even though, you lost obviously one of those 2. It just feels like it was a lifetime ago that the Packers beat Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what's wild. And it was just such a dominant win too, that everybody was like, oh, this is a Super Bowl caliber team. 3 weeks later, we're talking about firing the coach again. It's a wild time. So when you take all that into consideration, right, in current status, you're without your number 1 receiver. You're without your top performing receiving target this year in Tucker Kraft because he just blew his ACL out. You lost, you had to play without Matthew Golden there on Monday night against the reigning Super Bowl champions. He's your first round pick. He was going to get a good share of those targets like he has been. People act like Matthew Golden isn't getting the ball. He's second on the team in targets amongst wide receivers. So that's kind of mind boggling to me. Now, if you're saying to take more targets away from Josh Jacobs and give them to Matthew Golden, then we can't be upset when we throw interceptions because that means you're forcing the ball into coverage. Obviously, the reason you're checking it down to Jacobs is the coverage is dictating that you're checking it down to Jacobs, right? So, you're without Matthew Golden, and now you lose your starting center. Now, some people believe that's an upgrade. They didn't like how Elton Jenkins was playing. Former players have talked about that. Fans have talked about that. I think based off what we've seen from Sean Ryan against the Eagles, I do kind of feel like it was a lot closer than I thought. I'm not here to say Sean Ryan is playing better football or ever will play better football than Elton Jenkins, but I didn't look up in the middle of that game and go, oh, crap, we're really missing Elton Jenkins here. There's a couple of times I was like, that's a damn good block by Sean Ryan, So just something else to kind of take into consideration. So, again, currently the 12th best record in the league and the 7th best record in the NFC in the conference there, right? So just want to touch that. Now, if you're talking historically, this is something we bring up all the time, and I know the Matt LaFleur haters do not like it, but you've got to mention the facts. You've got to, can't let emotion just run away with the entire conversation, right? So all-time winning percentage amongst all NFL head coaches. Number 1 is Guy Chamberlain at 784. By the way, he coached only 5 years from 1922 to 1927. If somebody wants to throw that out, I completely understand. He is a Hall of Famer, though. John Madden, he's a 759 winning percentage. Vince Lombardi, 738. Nick Sirianni, 714. That's the other thing. You just lost by 3 points with a makeshift offense where you had Bo Melton playing receiver a good chunk of the game, right? Your backup cornerback against the reigning Super Bowl champions, and you only lost by 3 points. I don't look at that loss and go, what a horrible loss. I just don't see it that way. I can't get on board with seeing it that way. I truly can't. But Nick Sirianni is the coach that just defeated you. Guys, he's got the 4th highest winning percentage in league history right now at 714. Somebody needs to put some respect on Nick Sirianni's name. He's a hell of a coach. You cannot deny that. You just can't. There's no denying that he's a great coach, right? George Allen, Hall of Famer, 712. Tommy Hewitt, 694. Looks like he only coached 56 games, however. Blanton Collier, 691. Jim Harbaugh, he's back in the league now, right, with the Chargers. He's sitting at 687. Ray Flaherty, if I'm saying that name correctly, Hall of Famer, 684. George Halas, Papa Bear Halas with the Bears, Hall of Famer, 682. Don Shula, Hall of Famer, only undefeated coach in NFL history, right? The 72 Dolphins, 677. Paul Brown, that literally the Cleveland Browns are named after him, Hall of Famer, 672. Tony Dungy, the inventor or one of the key orchestrators of the Tampa 2 defense that's still used today. Jeff Hafley runs it today, 668. And he's a Hall of Famer. Next on the list is Matt LaFleur at 665. At one point this year, guys, Matt LaFleur was higher than all those guys. He was officially in the top 10. I think he was 10th, maybe 11th. I think he was 10th in winning percentage. So we showed you currently 12th best record in the league, 7th best in the conference. We're 10 weeks in, I should say, about to start week 11. It actually just kicked off last night. And he's also the 14th most winning coach in terms of winning percentage in league history. So those are the facts. Those are the stats. I want to know in the comments what you guys think. I'm going to read a couple of these live, and then you guys watching this back later, let me know in the comments what you think. should Matt LaFleur be fired? Right? If so, there's going to be teams lined up around the block. We're not even including college teams, right? He's going to have a pick between a large college program, depending on if he were to get fired again. I don't think he's going to be fired. These are just the rumors that Atlanta Falcons are extremely interested in him. He's going to get head coaching job offers from NFL teams. He's going to get head coaching job offers from large collegiate programs too, I would imagine. Okay. So let me know in the comments what you guys think on whether or not you think he should be fired. Again, we hit that one already. We hit that. Bang. Let's just move on down the line. Holmes in the chat says, I think this Matt LaFleur is certainly a bit premature. The Packers often have mid-season lulls. Fans need to really chill out, right? It's funny too, Holmes, not that you're doing this, but other fans, you're kind of, the rubber's meeting the road now. Now there's rumors that this team would hire him, that, and now people are kind of going, oh crap, what are we going to do? Right? Like are they really going to get rid of him now? So 2-0 for this says, I think people are more mad about the way in which he gets his targets, talking about Golden, right? And it's funny too, because 2-0 for this, I kind of push back on that because they're saying all he's doing is just underneath routes. I mean, we can pull up 3 or 4 plays where we took shot plays to him and just haven't hit on him, right? One in particular, he lays out for the diving catch, ball hits his hands, tough catch, right? And some people say it's an inaccurate throw, but he'd rather Jordan Love overthrow that ball to where he has to lay out for it, where only he can get to it rather than underthrow it, right? Especially with him being a little bit undersized receiver, even though his contested catch tape was really, really good in college, right? So, but got you there, man. Holmes says, we have a lot of quick route running wide receivers. I would love to see more short and medium passing game. That gets him raked over the coals too, though, right, Holmes? It does. It gets Matt raked over the coals every week. Timothy says, gotta give LaFleur the rest of the season. He's a great coach who we'd be dumb to let go of. I agree with that as well. I honestly, Timothy, let me go back to Timothy's real quick. I'm at the point in this argument that I feel like even if you miss the playoffs this year, let's say that you miss the playoffs and the offense drops out of the top 15 and all the important metrics, right? And that's his baby. I would say he's on the hot seat next year. That's the way I would look at that. So I think that most people, if you were to poll them and say, hey, if the Packers missed the playoffs this year, would you bring Matt LaFleur back? They're probably saying no. I'm probably in the minority with that opinion. But I would give him another shot next year. And then if you miss the playoffs again, okay, this ain't working, right? I could see that then. And even then, I do think that many people, many teams would be on board with signing. So, Michael in the chat, good to see you, buddy. Says, Clay, I just got on here and I saw that the ESPN think we shouldn't have picked up Josh Jacobs. What the hell is wrong with these people? Matt LaFleur is going to get this turned around. That is wild to think about. I'd love to know who said that, Michael, because Josh Jacobs has been dominant, dude. He's been such a good football player, such a good leader ever since he got to the Green Bay Packers. Man, oh man. I'm too drunk to taste that chicken. That's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. J. Cole in the chat keeps it simple, says Matt LaFleur doesn't need to be fired. 2-0 for this says, I don't want it to get to the point where Matt gets tired of all this chatter and just stops caring. That's the other thing too, right? With the fan base getting so loud. I think people think that they don't make a difference, but man, when it gets loud like that on social media, these players and these coaches hear it. And I know most people that don't care what they say on Twitter, their response will be, well, they need to toughen up. They need to toughen up. I got you there, tough guy. I try to fan in a way that's like, okay, how can we encourage the players? How can we encourage the team, encourage the coaches, right? That's kind of how the approach I take. I think of Art Daly back in the day. I think it was Art Daly. And some of the old Green Bay press reporters, when the Packers were on such shaky ground way back in the day, they would always put a positive spin on the report, because if they wrote something negative and the fan backing tanked, we knew that the Packers were on such shaky financial ground that it would just take 2 or 3 years of that and the whole thing will fall apart. So in the early years of the Packers in their history, some of those guys that were in the media, they really propped the Packers up. They would always try to find the positive spin. That's kind of how I fan as well. Romero Hill says, salute Clayton and chat. Good to see you, Romero. Thank you for swinging through, buddy. Nick McSwain, sup, everyone. If LaFleur gets fired, our Super Bowl window going to be slammed shut. Probably for a few years, right, Nick? I would imagine. Because with the new scheme, with the new system, you got to get reacclimated, this and that, right? I think more often than not that it wouldn't be possible, but I'm with you. I'm with you there, Nick, for sure. Romero says, question, what other coach is available that's better than Matt LaFleur? That's the question I've been trying to get answered. And typically what people will do is they'll immediately go to the stats. They'll sort the team stat rankings and go, okay, who's got the best passing game? All right, I want that OC to be my head coach. Or who's got the best running game? Okay, I want that OC to be my head coach. That's typically how that works, right? So what you would be talking about is poaching an offensive coordinator. Most likely you would try to keep Jeff Hafley. Although imagine this. Imagine you fire Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley gets hired somewhere else. Now, immediately people say, no, Jeff Hafley be the head coach. I think that's the answer to your question, Romero. I think the fans that want LaFleur gone, their angle would be, let's promote Jeff Hafley to head coach and go hire an OC. Here's the problem. You can't make a lateral hire. So all these OCs that they're in love with, they can't come over laterally to the Packers, okay? Because all that team's got to do is promote them to assistant head coach and they stay, okay? That's what we did with Rich Bisaccia to keep other people from taking Rich Bisaccia from us, by the way. So with that being said, you would have to go get an assistant underneath one of those OCs. Doesn't sound too appealing, does it? To have someone who's most likely never been an offensive coordinator or has failed pretty miserably at being an offensive coordinator if they're back down to a passing game coordinator or a quarterback coach or wide receiver coach, something like that, right? So you would promote Jeff Hafley to your head coach and then go hire a guy who's underperformed or undercoached, I should say, pretty much his entire career, or else he would have an OC job, right? That's essentially what you're looking at. So hopefully that answers your question, man. Nick McSwain says, 2 weeks ago, we were number 2 in EPA behind the Colts, behind only the Colts. Remember Love's first year, everyone was saying to fire LaFleur. How'd that turn out? Firing LaFleur would be a huge mistake, in my opinion. Could not agree more, Nick. Could not agree more, man. Yeah, everybody's responding to Romero. None, Romero. Not a single one, Romero, talking about what coaches would you replace him with, right? Like, who comes to mind? J. Cole says, we're not the Browns, we're the Giants. Packer fans need to understand that. Amen to that, dude. Amen to that. And you notice those bad organizations, they just constantly do that. Just constantly cycling through coaches and even quarterbacks. Like, think of the Browns. They have Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's an MVP candidate this year. Will he win it? Probably not, but he's playing top 5 quarterback play, at least last time I checked. Cleveland had him. You know who else had him? Carolina had him. And they had him pass rushing on the scout team in practice. He was playing defensive end, giving pass rush looks, just an extra body out there. Bad organizations do this all the time. They just cycle through quarterbacks and coaches, right? Romero Hill says, only way to shut them up is to handle business. Opinion. Hey, amen to that, man. Winning solves everything, right? Corey Murphy, hey, guys, missed half the show again. You're good, Corey. Appreciate you swinging through, buddy. Thank you, man. Number one Packer fan. I feel about Matt LaFleur like I felt about Josh Myers. You don't move on unless you know you've got someone who could step in and produce day one. We see how that has worked out at center. So, yeah, and I would push back a little bit there, number one Packer fan, because Josh Myers hasn't played good after he left, right? I think we all expected Elton Jenkins to pick up where he left off from college because he was a good center in college. And that's where they drafted him at, and they kicked him over to guard immediately, right, which is what the Packers do. But, yeah, I kind of look at that in a little bit different manner. We got problems at center. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you there. But I don't think Josh Myers was the end. Now, to your point, though, when they let Josh Myers go, I remember saying, man, if we could get him for like under $5 million per, I would keep him because he knows the offense. And there's a little bit of stability there, right? Guys, he ended up signing, what was it, $1.5 million, less than $2 million, I believe, 1 year deal. God, I would have said, here's $3 million, stay here, right? And we'd be in a little bit better spot right now, obviously. Have a little more depth there. But yeah, so we agree in that regard for sure. Snake Even OM says people say fire Matt LaFleur without having a good answer on to who hire. Absolutely, man. Pack Attack with the super chat. Thank you, buddy, for the generous dono. Even if our O-line is healthy, I believe Jay Love has a history of inconsistency going back to when we lost to the Niners in the playoffs. Go. There's definitely been some inconsistency. I would agree with that. He's not been the most consistent quarterback. The problem, though, right, Pack Attack, is when he gets hot, and it's like, holy cow, this dude's on fire, right? So, and I will say this, in terms of talking consistency, watching him play this year, the thing I've been impressed with is his touch on passes. We've seen now, if you guys aren't following Jacob Morley on Twitter, he's a great follow, man. He just good, positive Packer fan, shows a lot of tape. It just has a good time with it. He has what we call Jordan Love's sicko throw of the week, right? And I had tweeted a video out, and I look for his tweet every week, and I didn't even think to tag him and go, hey, what do you think about this one? Because that's his thing, right? But I tweeted a throw that we showed on Chalk Talk last night where Jordan Love just dropped it in the bucket over the Mike backer, right underneath the DBs to Christian Watson. Sure enough, somebody had tagged Jacob Morley and said, well, how about this for sicko throw of the week? He said, that's the positive I needed this week. So he tweeted it out. So the thing that I'm noticing with him this year is his accuracy is so much damn better, right? He's actually improved the accuracy. Now, got to put that consistency together, right? Greg Cosell said it when Jordan Love was set to take over for Aaron Rodgers in 2023. Greg Cosell was asked, what do you think of Jordan Love? He said, he's got all the arm talent. He's got all the ability he needs. Now what he's got to do is be the best version of himself week in and week out. When things go bad, he's got to come in and be the same player and don't panic, right? Essentially is what he's saying. He's panicked a little bit from time to time. However, I think he's way more consistent this year than he has been. I mean, the touchdown to interception ratio is great. The fumble the other day sucked, right? But his accuracy's gotten better. I think he's going to really settle in as the year comes along. I just think there's too many things that are about to fall into place. Everything that could go wrong for the Packers has gone wrong the last 2 weeks. I think the luck's going to turn a little bit, and sometimes luck is involved with football, right? If we had lost these last 2 games, guys, I want to be clear about this. If we had lost these last 2 games by, 14 points, 20 points, I would be a lot more negative right now. But you're talking about losing these games by 3 points, and you're missing all these key players, right? That's why I'm sitting back going, I don't know, man. I think something special is about to happen in the second half of the season. I could be wrong, but I'm excited to see how it all unfolds. We'll be here every step of the way. But thank you for the super chat, Pack Attack. Appreciate you, man. 2-0 for this. Sticking with your guy through the bad times makes it more sweet when you come out the other side. For some reason, though, there are fans who have hated Matt from the hire. We will be fine. That's a fact, man. That is a fact there. So, Nick McSwain, I hate the idea that everything is the head coach's fault. I get it, kinda, but at some point, the players have to be responsible for producing on the field. I completely agree with that, and that's part of the problem too. Is like former players will immediately defend current players, right? And that's just the way it goes. Former coaches will defend current coaches, like Bruce Arians. I should probably try to find that clip. This would be a good episode to find that clip for. Bruce Arians commented on this, and obviously Bruce Arians was a former Super Bowl coach, right? So a Super Bowl winning coach. I think I could probably find it here. Let me go grab this real quick. It should be fairly close to the top of the timeline. Here we go. We got it right here. So I want to play a clip for you guys. This is from Up and Adams on Kay Adams' show. And for those of you who don't know Bruce Arians, he wrote a book called The Quarterback Whisperer. He's got a lot of strong ties to some of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game, being their quarterback coach. He's the one who took over in Tampa when Tom Brady went down there, right? And when he took over in Tampa, obviously they win a Super Bowl. Now, he's been extremely successful pretty much everywhere he's gone for the most part. He's battled some health issues. You can actually watch a documentary called Bruce Arians, A Football Life on YouTube. It's a really, really good watch. You should check it out sometime. But here was on Up and Adams with Kay Adams. Super Bowl champ Bruce Arians chimes in on the Packers-Eagles outcome. So as I read Nick McSwain's comment here, I hate the idea that everything is the head coach's fault. I get it, kind of, but at some point, the players have to be responsible for producing on the field. That's kind of what we came away with on the tape. I didn't feel like the scheme was a problem. We showed you multiple times there was plays to be made. Jordan either read the defense wrong or a player dropped the pass. But anyway, here's what Coach Bruce Arians, Super Bowl champion Bruce Arians, had to say about that very thing there. Let me get us a screen grab here. Let's go with a little Stephen A. this morning. Obviously, this is not Stephen A. Smith talking, but this is Bruce Arians on Matt LaFleur and the Packers. Let's play it.
How do you fix the Packers offense?
Ooh. Yeah,
Oh, God.
That's a head scratcher. I mean, they look so good at times and so average at times. Yeah, and it's throughout the whole league. I've never seen so many drop balls by NFL receivers in my life.
So he said, throughout the whole league, I've never seen so many drop balls by NFL receivers my whole life. So he's talking about kind of a drop issue throughout, the entirety of the league. And they're actually showing the play, I believe, was the crossers call that we had that we showed y'all on Chalk Talk where Bo Melton drops that pass.
And I don't know what it is, but lack of concentration, too many young guys or whatever it is. But, man, too many balls hitting guys right in the chest on third down and dropping them. And, that's plagued them a little bit. Obviously, they need Golden back. They need a couple of guys back. Losing Elkins is really going to hurt them because he's such a leader in that offensive line. I don't know. And, it's not Matt's play calling, that's for sure. He's been one of the best there is for a while.
Yeah, he said it's not the play calling. Matt's been one of the best there is for a long time, right?
I mean, it's like this first half, 1 touchdown and 18 first half possessions over the last 4. So
yeah, I mean, he usually does a great script. He's one of those guys that scripts 15 to 20 plays, and he's do a better job of scripting. That's it. That's the tough part. But Jordan Love seems to get to slow starts for some reason, and whether it's a drop pass or whatever it is, you're right that the Packers need to get off to a faster start if they're going to compete.
It's not new to get, have offenses start slow. I don't know I would love to know from you how to fix that. Is there a general coaching? I'm looking at Bo Nix. I'm looking at, Jordan, Caleb Williams, like these, I love the fourth quarter stuff because I'm a fan and I'm like, this is exciting, but I would also like some consistency and like, let's take care of business in the first half. When it comes to developing a rhythm and slow starts, what would be like your TED Talk main point?
Well, the best, big thing is to get the ball to your best playmakers early. And when you're scripting, that's something, for me, it was always, I got to get Larry Fitzgerald the ball early. I got to get Hines Ward the ball early because I'm going to ask them to do some things in the dirty part of the job and blocking and stuff. So I want them into it, and, get the quarterback some easy stuff early and get them on the move, whatever it is. But, yeah, and then you got to get explosive plays. And that's the one thing I see the Packers are not getting the explosive plays that they used to.
Yeah, that they used to, he says. So, and here's the thing about that, to push back a little bit on what he said there with the explosive plays. We identified on Chalk Talk last night, there was 3 different drives where we hit on explosive plays. And what an explosive play, guys, is a running play of 10 yards or more, a passing play of 20 yards or more. Some people just say no, any kind of play of 15 yards or more. I like to go with the old school 10 and 20, okay? There was 3 different drives where we hit on explosive plays. When you hit on explosive plays, it should triple your chances of scoring on that said drive, right? And we did not score on those 3 drives. So you're talking about situational, things that happen situationally as you got on down the field, the fumble by Love, things like that. There was one particular play, and I know people don't like to hear people complain about the refs, where you had literally a DB on Romeo's back. Romeo tries to make a catch on the ball. The dude's got his right arm hooked around him. I think it was Quinyon Mitchell. The left one's coming over the top, and we've shown the video, the screen grab. He's literally on his back. Flag didn't get thrown. Romeo's looking for a flag immediately, right? Things like that happen too, but good coaches overcome that, right? So you just got to figure it out. But that made me think of that, Nick, your comment. Thank you for throwing it up there, man. Romero says, if we can get back on track offensively, it can be a long run. The defense is playing great, dude. It's so true, man. So true. So Nick McSwain says, people are way too reactionary. Love has been very good for the most part, but the 2 last games make it seem like he's terrible. It's so true, man. And again, when he has the great games, people are talking like he's top 3, right? We're as guilty as anybody. Like, I'm looking at the numbers, I'm looking at tape going, man, that's an elite throw. There's a couple throws on the sideline, man. Not every quarterback can make that throw on the sideline 18 yards down the field and nail that whole shot, right? But then there's other times with the inconsistency. I always think about it too. When I see him play inconsistent, I always think of Greg Cosell and what I told y'all just a second ago. So Romero Hill says, yeah, J-Love bad turnovers just comes at the worst times. Sometimes how Favre would opinion. Yeah, that's very true. Like that one in the middle 8, the fumble in the middle 8, man, it was crucial, man. Crucial. You wipe 3 points off the board and you lose the turnover differential in one play with less than 40 seconds left in the first half. That's just going to be hard to overcome. It really is. Adam Block says, if there is a talent vacuum with the offensive line, you have to put that on Goot. Yeah. But also, Adam, I'm like, with the offensive line, like, at what point do we blame a position coach, right? And you can see a steady decline from when Stenavich took over at OC and Butkus took over as offensive line coach. It seems like the offensive line started to get shaky and has trended downward. However, there are other people that are covering the Packers, and I want to say it was Matt Schneib and maybe someone else had tweeted out that Matt said that No, Stenavich still works with that offensive line on the daily. So if that's the case, then okay, we could throw that argument out the window, right? Now, maybe he's got other things on his plate that he can't truly focus on just the offensive line. But I understand what you're saying too, because Goot went out and spent $27 million on Aaron Banks. And I say 27 instead of 77 because it's 27 in guaranteed and you got a 1 year out. You can move on from Aaron Banks this year if you'd like to. I don't know if they will. They probably won't. But watching the tape the other night was pretty rough. Aaron Banks had a bad game. And somebody had asked us on Chalk Talk last night, who do you think was the weakest link in the offensive line this week? And I said Aaron Banks. This week, Aaron Banks. Not that he hasn't played good in spurts. The bright spot for me, obviously Zach Tom's always the bright spot, but Sean Ryan at center looked pretty good based off what I've seen. I'm eager to see what Bulaga and some of these other guys say, though, for sure. So, yeah. Romero says uphill or up tempo. Yeah, we kind of talked about that too. You got a young team too, up tempo work. The small saturation that we've seen this year, it seems to have worked. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to up tempo for sure. So Chester Marco chiming in says getting rid of Matt LaFleur's ceilings. I agree. I completely agree, man. Completely agree. So yeah, there you go, guys. I think we did a pretty good job including everybody there in the chat. Thank you all so much for giving me your input. If you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments what you think about Matt LaFleur and these rumors that there seems to be some interest from Atlanta into Matt LaFleur. And he's not even, I don't think he's on the hot seat, but a portion of the fan base has gotten so loud that the conversation's emerging. And now all of a sudden there's rumors that, hey, they would be more than happy to hire him in Atlanta if the Packers were to let him go. So with all that being said, if you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments what you think. Should Matt LaFleur be on the hot seat? Do you think this is all silliness like I do and other people in the chat? Let us know your opinion there in the comments. Make sure you hit subscribe, click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. We'll be back tonight, 6 p.m. Central for PTA Live, and we'll be talking Packers, Giants, breaking all that good stuff down. It's going to be a blast. So everybody have a wonderful evening. And this is PTA. My name's Clayton. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
We're out. Bye, guys.